But man, I'm excited to be here with you guys. We're in this series called Hooked. And in this series, we've been looking at what it means to be a follower of Jesus and what Jesus meant when he told his disciples that he was going to make them fishers of men. We are all meant as believers and as followers of Christ to be fishers of men. So we've had some fun. We've talked about fishing quite a bit, which many of y'all found out very quickly that I know very little, if anything at all, about fishing, but I do like the idea and I do like the concept, and so it was a challenge for me to study and learn all that I could learn about fishing and trying to not completely embarrass myself in front of people that I know who are here, who are actually very good fishermen and fisherwomen of actual fish. So before I really kind of get started, I wanted to just tell you guys thank you. A lot of y'all know that this past week we had some, family stuff that we had to deal with. Our baby girl Ada, who's now 5 years old, had to go and have another surgery this past week, and everything went really well. In case you don't know, last year, almost exactly last year, last Sunday, it was like a year from that Sunday, our family was in a really bad car accident, and we had some broken bones. Ada and I, we were both unable to walk there for a while, about a month, and so it was not fun, but she was a champ. And so they put some rods in her leg, and these are actually the rods that were in her leg. Like, these are the exact ones I told her I wanted to keep them, because I was a little disappointed when I had my wisdom teeth pulled, and they didn't ask me if I wanted my wisdom teeth, but I kind of did. I was like, I want to see them, and then throw them away, but I want to at least see them for a while. And then when my son had his tonsils removed, I was like, I kind of want to see his tonsils, but they didn't ask me if I wanted to see his tonsils, so I was a little frustrated with that. And so I was like, I want some souvenirs here, okay? I want some really weird stuff to put in jars and keep in my house, and people come over and look and just get kind of scared. But anyway, so I got to keep these. These are the rods that were in her leg. I don't know what kind of metal they are, but there's some kind of metal that's safe to be inside of your body. And this one's a little more bent. I think they had a hard time getting it out, honestly. But the surgery went really well. She was awesome. She came out of the surgery, the anesthesia was still wearing off, and that was not very fun. That was a very, very rough day. And honestly, that was probably one of the hardest days I've had, I think, since we've even had kids, in our lives, I guess. Because that was really tough, because she was dealing with, she was still thinking about what happened before, and she was scared, and it was really, really rough, almost as bad. I mean, I think the only thing I can think of is the day that it happened, and hearing her, on the other side of the ER room, just screaming, is my daddy dead, and where's my daddy, and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not being able to talk to her because my body's, spasming from all, the brokenness going on inside, and I'm just he was, nodding my head. But anyway, I say all that just to say thank you for your prayers, and the support. You guys were awesome, and we couldn't. Tara and I are human beings just like y'all. We go through stuff just like you guys go through stuff. Sometimes we argue, and then Tara realizes how wrong she was, and we get over it. We have difficult circumstances that come against us as well, just like you guys, and so we're here as a family. So we appreciate that, and so I said that, but I also was thinking about it, and I was like, it's interesting, these rods that they had in her leg. They were put there to kind of hold her leg back together because she broke her femur. In case you're wondering what a femur is, if you've been out of school for a long time like me, your femur is that big thigh bone, right? That's the biggest bone in your body. That's the big one. So to break that bad boy is pretty hardcore. And so they had these rods that they put in there to kind of hold it together, and she was totally fine with them in there. She never worried. She never really felt like they bothered her or anything. She was totally cool. She didn't even really realize that she had metal in her body, but they had to come out because the healing was complete. Her leg was healed, the bone was healed, and this was only going to get in the way at that point of her growing and all that stuff. So they had to take them out, which hurt, right? She had to go under, they had to cut her again, they had to pull them out. She's sore, she's walking, but not as well as she wants to, and she can later, and she's got about a month or so before she's going to really be able to go back to what she's normally doing. But I started thinking about it just this week and even this morning, and I was like, man, it's so so true to like how we live our lives. I was going through this Hook series, and I started thinking, I said, you and I are not only being called as followers of Christ to be fishers of men, but you and I are also being fished for. Like you and I are also going through life being fished for. There is someone fishing for us. And there are two people that are in particular fishing for us. Now to start first, I got to start with, I think, just the negative and kind of almost the obvious, but we are being fished for by an enemy. We are being fished for by someone who wants to catch us, someone who would like to put some metal in us to reel us in. The devil is our enemy, our adversary. Now you might say, Stephen, are you really talking about like the actual devil, like the real devil? Like, do you believe in that? Yes, I believe in an actual devil, a real devil. If you're walking through life feeling that there's no enemy, but there is a God, then you're kind of living in denial of the reality. Now, you don't have to be afraid of our enemy. We don't have to be afraid of the devil because he has nothing against us that is greater than our God who lives within us, right? So, as a follower of Christ, there's no worries on that side, but we do need to know what he is doing and how he is fishing for us. On the other side of that, Jesus is also fishing for us. The devil wants to bring us from life to death, while Jesus is trying to bring us from death to life. And that's not even in the eternal soul realm, and that's not even in just like physical. I'm talking about in your relationships. Your enemy would love to take your relationships from life to death. In your job, the enemy would love to take you from life-giving to death. In all circumstances in your life, in your finances, in your family, in your health, he would love to do all he can do to destruct and destroy your life. But on the flip side, we have a God who is doing just the opposite, and he's bringing life to those situations in us. He's bringing life to our relationships. He's bringing life to our careers. He's bringing life to our finances. He's bringing life to our families and all the things that we hold dear. So we don't need to fear the devil. He is not omnipresent. He is not everywhere like God is. He is not at all places. He is not always doing every little thing that happens to you that's bad. Is not always the devil. He's got a lot of stuff going on, so he is not always working directly against you, but he is organized, and he has customized temptations just for you. One of the things that I've learned about fishing is that there are different types of baits and lures that are used for different types of fish. There are some things that catch the eye of some fish that just don't catch the eye as well as others. And so if you're really going out to catch a certain kind of fish, you choose your bait and you choose your lures very carefully directed towards those fish. I don't do that because I don't know what I'm doing, right? I just like find something. I'm like, it's got a hook and it's shiny, and I look at it like, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. Look, it kind of wiggles. I'm like, I like that one, right? That's the one I choose, and that's why I don't catch anything when I fish. But when I was thinking about our little baby girl, like kind of trying to bring this together with these rods, I was like, that's so much like us. Like our enemy would love to snag us. He would love to get some metal in us. And the difference is when he does that, he doesn't practice catch and release. The enemy doesn't practice, let me catch, take a picture, release, let it go about its way. It'll heal up, it'll be fine. No, the enemy likes to catch and then add to his trophy collection. He likes to add to his trophy room what he has caught. That's what he uses his temptation for. And so when we get snagged and we get hooked by the enemy, we end up suffering more. But when God hooks us, when we allow God to pursue us, when we allow Jesus to be the one who reels us in, even if it hurts for a little bit, it's to heal us for a longer time. Even if the metal hurts a little bit, even if the procedure of being reeled in hurts us a little, it's always for our benefit and for our good. And Jesus will use those things to heal us so that we're whole. Just like Ada and the doctors used the metal to heal her leg and make her whole. She had to go through a little pain and a little suffering, but she's going to be better and made whole from it. And so our God reels us in a very similar way. So I want to talk real practically just about how the enemy fishes for us. And he uses something called temptation. Now, temptation's got a process, right? Just like when we're fishing, our enemy chooses a lure that is attractive to his prey. He uses a bait or a lure that's attractive to us. He's looking for what he can use. What in their life can I use? What have they allowed in them? What is attractive to them? What is something that's going to be enticing to them? Maybe I can use that somehow to tempt them, to reel them in, to bring them a little further from where they're trying to go and more into the waters that I'm trying to lead them into. So he chooses those lures that are attractive to us. Another thing is that he chums strategically. Now, chum, I've learned, is when you take like really good, tasty, bloody chunks of fish and stuff. That just sounds yummy. It reminds me of SpongeBob. But anyway, but he takes like all this stuff and you just throw it in the water and the fish just kind of go crazy. Right? Like if you're fishing for a shark, right, you want to throw some chum in the water. I don't know, maybe Justin can tell you something about that. He's like raising young children that are like shark hunters and stuff. It's insane. I don't know how they do it. But I think his 9-year-old is more manly than me. But anyway, the enemy is chumming strategically for us. And what that means is he's looking for the right situations, the right circumstances. It's not always the obvious stuff. It's not like the enemy's always waving things in front of you saying, hey, come on, look, this is going to kill you, but doesn't it look good? It's not like that. It's like, let me find what could possibly catch their eye. Let me find something that will just distract them a little bit from God's best. Let me bring something. Maybe it's money. Maybe it's like, hey, I can make this money if I go this way. And he knows that's a distraction for you. So it's going to maybe be enough to just kind of draw your attention away from what God's plan for you is and more towards what he is trying to lure you into. But it's just a little bit. Just that little bit of a lure. What is it for you? Maybe it's a relationship. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's addictions and certain things in your life. Like, it's just a little bit enough to distract you. And then he starts to find the right situations, the right circumstances. Let me just add a little bit of chum. Let me add a little bit of bait in the water where there's already something going on. Maybe when they're over in this situation, this circumstance, this is when I can get them. This is when I can really lure them in. And then he casts accurately. Our enemy is a very patient enemy. The longer you're willing to stay in his waters, the longer and the better chance you have of getting hooked and reeled in by him. He will wait patiently. It's not always an ambush attack. If you're going to allow temptation to kind of creep into your life, he'll wait patiently for it to grow. He'll wait patiently for it to really, really sink in. And that's when he starts to reel in. When you're at that point where you're fully hooked. It reminds me of something I've learned about fishing, and I didn't know this for a long time until I watched other people. And maybe this isn't even like a real thing, but it's just something I've observed. I remember the first few times that I ever went fishing, the idea and the excitement is to catch a fish. Like, right? It's so fun. Like when you feel that little nibble, that little pull on your rod, you're like, oh my God, you get like super excited. It's like watching soccer and someone finally actually almost scores a goal, right? You're like, oh my God. Like I was watching with my family this weekend and I was just like, I can't do this. This is stressing me out, man. Like we're getting so close, right? And so what I would do when I first went fishing is I would feel something on there. I'm like, sweet, yeah, boom, and I would start reeling it in, and then I would get it in, and there'd be nothing on there. But I don't understand. I felt it was on. I felt it bit the bait, it bit the hook. And then I started watching other people fish, people that knew what they were doing, and I realized that they would know that they had a fish on the line, and they wouldn't do anything for a while. And I was like, what? I don't understand that. What's going on? Like, why would you do that? You have a fish on your line, man. Reel that sucker in, right? Like, that's exciting to me. I'm like, this could be the best day of your life. Like, you're going to miss it if you don't reel it in. But I realized that real fishermen are patient. They wait. And so what's interesting to me is that fish has no idea that it's hooked yet. That fish has no clue that it's about to be dinner. That fish has no idea. It's just swimming along. It's like, sweet, I got me a treat. And it's like swimming around with a snack and just waiting. And all of a sudden, oh my God. And it's too late at that point because it's already sunk in and it's deep and he's about to get reeled in and he's about to be a trophy for someone. And the enemy does the same thing with us. He puts the bait out there. He chums the waters and gets all the situations just right. Let me get the right circumstances. He casts in the right spot. He doesn't do like me and just cast it as far as he possibly can because that makes me feel manly to just see how far I can throw that thing, right? He does it right in the right spot, real accurate. Waits for you to kind of check it out. Take a little nibble here and there. He's not going to freak out. He's not going to reel it right in right away. He's not going to scare you. I want you to get comfortable with that hook. I want you to get comfortable with the bait, thinking, this is good. This is all right. I can do this. This is fine. I can have this in my life and still go on serving God. That's all right. Nothing bad has happened. Nothing bad's going on. The world hasn't ended. I just did something terrible. The world's still revolving. Okay. Maybe this is all right. Maybe I can make some extra money this way. Maybe I can have this kind of a relationship after all. Maybe this whole, being equally yoked thing doesn't really matter so much. Maybe I can do these different things in my life and run my business a certain way, and it's okay. We are really just waiting till the hook is sunk in deep enough to be reeled in. So he waits patiently for us. And again, he does not practice catch and release. So I don't want to scare you though, because we do have good news. There is a flip side to that. And so we're going to look at James and spend the rest of our time here mostly in James. What's cool about James is that James was the brother of Jesus, half-brother, I guess, because his mom was truly married, and, Dad Joseph wasn't the Holy Spirit, all that kind of stuff, so they're like half-brothers. I love that even in the Bible and even in Jesus' family, he had some unconventional stuff going on in his family. Does that make you feel better about your family? Anybody got some weird families? Well, that's my uncle, but he's also kind of my cousin, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's just whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe, I don't know. But it makes me feel better that Jesus had some stuff in he had a half-brother. And so if you've got half-brothers and quarter-brothers and part sisters, it's all good. Jesus had a half-brother too. But what's really cool, and I love to read the book of James, because I'm like, if Jesus' brother was all about Jesus, I don't have an excuse, right? Because when your own family is like, this is the Son of God right here, I'm going to devote my entire life to following him. Like, that's got to be legit, right? Because you know everything about your brothers and sisters. You know everything about your family. And you ain't going to convince me there is anything all that special about somebody in my family, right? Because I done seen it all and heard it all and smelt it all and just everything, right? So there's no pedestal for our family members. But James was like devout follower of Jesus, just another way of knowing how legit Jesus was and is. So in James 1, verse 13, it says, "Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm being tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself tempts no one." This is why this is important. Because a lot of times we think that God is tempting us, and so we use that excuse to allow ourselves to be in situations that we don't belong in. We allow ourselves to stay in circumstances thinking, well, maybe God is just tempting me with this to see if I can withstand. But the devil tempts us to make us do wrong. God does not tempt us. God will test us in order to make us strong. So there's a difference between the way the enemy fishes and the way God fishes. If it's leading you to do wrong, it's not God. He's not tempting you to do something wrong. He's not going to put you in a situation where you are likely to sin. That is not God. That is the devil. He's trying to get you to slip up. God will only put you in circumstances where you are having to rely on him, because that makes your faith strong. That's the difference between temptation and a testing from God. So we read on verse 14. It says, "But each one is tempted, and when he is dragged away, enticed and baited by his own desire, then when the illicit desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And when sin has run its course, it gives birth to death." That is showing the process of temptation and the consequences of it. It's not right away. It's not instant. That's that patient fishing that we get stuck in sometimes. It's just a little enticing. It's just a little dabble. It's just a little bit compromise. It's not a whole world turnaround. You're not changing your life and denying God in one day, but you begin to compromise small ways. And then that gives birth to sin. Then we begin to sin. And as sin grows up and as sin matures, because that's what sin does, it matures. And it gets older and it gets stronger and it gets more mature and it becomes more complex, it gives birth to death. It causes destruction in our lives. It causes destruction in our families. It causes destruction in our joy. It causes destruction to our peace. And it starts with allowing ourselves to be tempted longer than we should. And here's the thing, we can choose our actions, but we don't choose the consequences. We get to choose what we do, but we don't get to choose the consequences of those actions. So you can say, I'm going to allow this to be in my life, but then you don't then get to say, but I want it all to work out according to God's plan and God's will, because our choices have consequences. We don't get to choose the consequences. We only choose our choices. Let's keep reading verse 16. It says, do not be misled, my beloved brothers and sisters. Verse 17, every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above. It comes down from the Father of lights. It was of his own will that he gave us birth as his children by the word of truth, so that we would be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. He gives us life. The enemy is luring us to death, while God, even in the midst of our temptation, gives us a way to life. And here's the tough thing, I think, happens to us. We're in these seasons of temptation. Because even Jesus went through a time and a season when he was tempted. So you are going to go through times and seasons when you are perhaps tempted more than you are in others. And we need to recognize what is happening in those seasons. We need to recognize what is going on around us. We need to recognize the situation that we are in. And we need to know that we have a choice. Are we going to give in to the temptation? Are we going to allow it to start having a foot inside of our lives? Are we going to give it a little bit so that it can grow and mature and start to cause destruction? Or are we going to realize that God has given us every good thing that we need? Are we going to realize that God has given us life so we don't have to live in temptation? We have the ability to walk away from it. And I think what happens to us is we get in these seasons where we're tempted and it causes us to hide because we're scared. And perhaps we're a little ashamed because we've let a little bit of it in. We've given in to some of that temptation. We've given in to some of those bad decisions, those bad choices. And so it causes us to hide. It causes us to say, you know what, no, people just don't understand my struggle. People don't understand what I'm going through. People don't understand what's going on in my life. And so I just got to deal with this. But we got to realize that we're not alone in our temptation. It feels like we're alone. It feels like no one's watching, but we're not alone. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, the temptations in your life are no different from what others experience. And God is faithful. The things that you deal with, other people deal with too. He won't allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. When you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. The reason God allows you to be tested in life is not so you can slip up. It's so that you can grow stronger. Not in your willpower, but in your trust in his faithfulness. We're not alone when we go through temptation. And the most important thing we have to realize is that there's always a way out. There's always a way out. God will always provide an escape. God will always provide a way out. and a way and a path directly to Him. Regardless of your season that you're in, maybe you're in a time where you're dealing with a lot of temptation. Maybe you're in a season where you've given in to a lot of temptation, even in that moment, even in those seasons, even when you're in a pit and you are stuck and you are ashamed and feel the guilt of your actions and you're dealing with the consequences of those choices. God still provides a way out. There's always a way to God. He made that way through His Son, Jesus Christ. And that option is always available to us. We always have the ability to cling to Him. We always have the ability to cry out to Him. We always have the ability to reach out and take a hold of the life and the promises that God has for us. So regardless of what season you're in, regardless of what kind of temptation you're dealing with, regardless of where you are in your life and your walk right now, there's always a direct path straight back into the arms and the presence, the forgiveness, the grace, the goodness, and the blessings of God. So the question is, whose line are we on? Who's reeling us in right now? What waters are we swimming in? It's a question we got to ask ourselves regularly. What waters am I in life right now? What am I doing? Look at your surroundings. Are you surrounded by temptation? Are you surrounded by grace? Are you surrounded by hostile waters? Or are you surrounded by love and kindness, and joy and peace? These are the fruits of a relationship with God. Who's reeling you in right now? Look, if you're on the wrong line, it's okay. If you can get on the right one. Our salvation is not relying on our good deeds or our perfection, but on the grace that God's shown us. So as we get ready, these next couple weeks, I would encourage you to think about who's fishing for you and who are you fishing for. Maybe you're like Ada and you're going through a little time in a little season where, man, it hurts. You're feeling some hurt, feeling some pain. Maybe you feel like, I haven't been given in to the enemy. It's not that I'm living wrong. I feel like I'm trying to come to God, but it's hard. Like I feel a lot of stuff. And I would encourage you, that's okay. That's probably just God healing you. And sometimes that healing takes a little bit of time, and a lot of times that healing kind of hurts a little bit. Medicine doesn't always taste good. When you got an open wound, you got to clean it up. It hurts a little bit. But man, that feeling when it's clean, that feeling when it's healed, is so much better than living with the infection and the pain and the suffering that comes along with that. So we're going to pray, and I just want to ask you, I'll encourage you to do two things. Number one, maybe if you're in a time, in a situation where you haven't given your life to God yet. Maybe you're in a place where you're still just trying to swim on your own and you haven't given in to God reeling you in and Jesus reeling you in. I would encourage you to make that decision now. And maybe you're in a place where you're hurting but you're hiding. You're hurting but you're turning away from God and you're afraid of the pain of the healing. I would encourage you to embrace it. Embrace the grace, embrace the love, embrace His forgiveness. I promise you the joy and the peace that you'll receive in return will be so much greater than any pain you remember. So let's pray. Father, I thank you. I thank you for being a faithful God. A God who forgives. A God who made a way for us. Jesus, I believe that you are the Son of God. I believe that you chose to die on a cross to pay for my sin so that I don't have to live with the consequences of that sin, but I could choose life. Jesus, today I choose life. And Lord, help me to not hide from you. Help us to turn to you. Help us to embrace your forgiveness, embrace your love, embrace your kindness. God, I just ask that you would begin to do a work in all of our hearts and all of our lives. Lord, all the areas that need to be healed, all the things that we're holding on to, all the walls that we have up, I just ask that you begin to break them down. Begin to show us how good and loving and faithful you are. God, help us to be made whole in you so that we can become fishers of men like you have called us to be. Lord, we thank you for all that you've done and all that you're continuing to do in our lives. Help us to stay connected and hooked with you. In Jesus' name, amen.